It's time for the Brown Sports Bag on WCLU, the official local sports show here in Glasgow and Barron County. And now, alongside John Butler, here is your host, James Brown.
John, I love the springtime. The sports are great. The weather is suspicious. And my allergies are always just buck wild.
Yep, that's Kentucky for you.
And I take medicine, and then I'm just like, okay. Sometimes I'm just like, I don't even know if this is a problem.
You may be immune to the medicine.
I may be. You may be right. Anyway, so I think I turned down the wrong mic. Let's try that again. All right, so we're actually going to talk about the softball at the top of the show today because we have a couple of games that are coming up, and Glasgow plays at Allen County today at 5:30, weather permitting. I think, it rained earlier today, and we have potential for it. Looks like it might be a little rainy out there coming up, but I guess we'll see if it holds off. And then, of course, Barron plays Allen tomorrow. Those are the last two games that Allen has, and those are the last couple of games left in the district schedule.
One of the reasons why you don't want to have games this late
is
because of weather. Now, I know these are makeup games.
Right. Makeup games that are also makeup games of makeup games, really.
That's correct. That's why you try not to get into these situations if you can afford not to.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't.
No, and so I think this kind of happened last year, too. We ended up on the last week playing a couple of games.
Yeah. Again, my suggestion is to have contractual makeup games.
Tell them again, John.
District. And when you schedule your district opponents, you before the year, you need to have it set in stone when the makeup games will be.
Yeah.
And Wednesdays are generally kind of free.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Maybe they'll heed your advice come this when they have their district meeting, whenever it is over the summer or whenever they do that, and come up with a plan to kind of know how things are going to work before they even get started. So anyway, as it is, we wind up with these two games that are big games because if Allen wins them both, they've got the top seed locked up. If they split with Barron, then we'll have to go to that run differential business, I think.
Is that what it is?
I believe that's correct. We end the game between the two of them, I think, is the way it works out. If Glasgow were to, pull the upset today, and they've played pretty well lately, and knock off Allen, Barron would even have a better shot at the one seed in a way but in the end, it would still be the split between them, however it worked out, I think. So,
no, if Glasgow could upseed Allen and Barron beats Allen, then Allen's a 2 seed.
Yeah, it's a definite lock if they beat them. Otherwise, it's going to be the differential between them. So yeah, you're right. So Glasgow can help out their neighbors if they were to pull the upset today. But either way, the tournament starts next Monday, and I think they're going to play both games over at Glasgow High School, first round games next Monday, and maybe the championship maybe on Tuesday. I don't know that officially yet. They haven't said that officially because we don't actually know who's playing each other yet. So it's up against it. But I think it's kind of an interesting situation because going back to what I just said, Glasgow's played pretty well. They won 3 of their 4 games last week, John.
Yeah, they're 5-16, but they won 3 out of 4 last week, and give them credit. They beat Adair 4-1 on Monday, and that's and Kerrigan Hagen, the 8th grader, 7 strikeouts, 1 hit, a good win against Adair. They lost to East 14-5. They got blown out by them. And then they came back last Saturday. I think that was played over LaRue County. I believe that's right.
Yeah.
They beat Louisville Fairdale 6-2. I don't know how good Fairdale is. I don't think they're that great.
Right.
But the most impressive win is they beat E-Town 1-0. And E-Town is 13-8. And it's played a pretty good schedule, too. So that was another win for Kerrigan Hagen, too.
Yeah.
And Glasgow's come a long way. We talked off air. Early in the year, I don't think they were going to win for me 1-0 games.
Right.
And to win 3 out of 4 the next to last part of the season and beat a good team, that's a lot of credit to the players and coaching staff.
Yeah, and I think the two things early in the year they would hit the ball okay, but they just weren't generating runs. The biggest problem they would have is They would walk too many people, give up too many free bases, and then commit errors behind it and give away runs. And as a young team, it looked like, when that kind of thing that would happen, you get your head down.
Yeah, half their starters are middle school, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So they get their head down, and it's a real struggle for them. I mean, I saw it a couple of times early in the season. I think when they lost to Metcalfe County, they just had that inning where I think they gave up 6 runs. And so you would go through several of their games that were losses, and you would see they had an inning. They'd give up 5, 6, 7 runs, and it was just that inning was a complete disaster. That's what they've gotten a lot better at, is not having just those disastrous innings, especially when Hagan is pitching. And so the proof was in the pudding. And like you said, that E-Town win is actually an impressive win.
It's a good win, no question about it. And they're in a tough district. Allen, East, and Barron have all either all got close to 20 wins. Barron's 16-5. They just hadn't had enough games really to get 20. But Allen's over 20. I think Warren East is at that 19-20. They're in a tough district with a lot of good teams, with a lot of historically good programs, especially Allen and East. And Barron has just been consistently good.
Right.
Haven't won a region.
Yeah.
They've been very, very
so
good.
Close.
Been close. That's correct. So, Glasgow is they're 0-5 in the district, but those 5 losses are to 3 really good teams.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see how it works out. I'm curious to see how they compete with Allen today, and then of course that game tomorrow will determine who Glasgow plays in the first round of the district next week, because Glasgow's locked in at that 4 seed, and as we've talked about on here before, 3 of the top 5 teams in the region are in the 15th district. One of them is not going to go to the regional tournament, and so. Not that Glasgow can't win a first-round game, but the likelihood is pretty low, and it's real high that 2-3 matchup is going to be a dogfight, and that's where somebody's going to not get a chance continue in the postseason, John.
Yeah, and there's a chance that both games could be really good games.
Yeah, that's right.
If Glasgow continues to improve as well.
Yeah, so it's an interesting week coming up. Next couple of days.
Yeah, and Barron went 1-1. They defeated Cumberland County last. I can't remember
Wednesday,
what day it was.
I think is when they ended up playing the game.
8-0. Shea Bogue again, another good performance. 10 strikeouts. Norris Shirley, continues her good play. She had 4 RBIs. I think Gracie Myatt had 4 hits. So the 8-0 shutout against, Cumberland County. That's not great, but they're not bad either.
Yeah.
And then they went, I think, Friday to LaRue. Now, LaRue has the most wins of anybody in the 5th region. They're like 23-3 or 23-4. I don't know if they're the best team, but they're top 3 team in the 5th, and Barron lost 2-1.
Yeah.
But that's the only 2 games they played. Again, I think Barron needs to play. In softball-wise, I think they need more games in to kind of get them ready for next week, and hopefully they can get that this week.
Yeah. If they're going to play them, they might need to play them at the beginning of the week, because I think at the back end of the week the weather looks a little sketchy.
Yeah, well, they got Russellville today. They shouldn't have a lot of trouble with them, and then Allen tomorrow, and they got a couple more scheduled at the end of the week. But like you said, who knows if they can get those games in? Yeah,
and by the way, you can hear that game on 104.7 WCLU Burgundy with Jay Turner on the call, beginning at 5:45. You can also go to the WCLUradio.com. and look for the Barron County tab under sports, and you can watch the game online as well if you're into that kind of thing. So we got you covered, and I'll go out there too and get some photos and have some info. So we got you covered every way you want to see it. I don't think anything has changed in the region in terms of who's the favorite still. South Warren, I think they're still number 1.
South Warren and Greenwood are 1-2.
Yeah.
South Warren is they were number 1 in the state the last time I checked.
Yeah,
I don't
believe
know if
they still are.
Yeah. So it's I think if you had to be fair, you'd probably go South Warren, Greenwood, Allen, top 3 teams in the region.
Yeah.
And last I checked, all 3 of those were ranked in the top 20 of the latest poll.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'd probably put Barron at the 4 spot and East at the 5.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Barron's beat East twice.
Yep. I don't know if there's anybody in the 13th district. Maybe Logan's the best team in that district. I'm not 100% certain. In the 16th, Clinton is the best in that one.
Right.
So, it's the 14th and 15th district we're worried about.
I think that's fair.
Anything else on the high school softball you can think of?
No, I mean, this is last week of the regular season, and next week is when it all turns. District tournament. Then the week after, you run into regional tournament. So, the season is nearing the end.
Yeah, and it's been a rainy one too.
It's been a rainy one. That's correct.
All right, this is Brown Sports Bag presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, John, the baseball district tournament is set, interestingly enough, and it will begin on Sunday. Let me see this bracket real quick. It'll begin on Sunday at 5 o'clock. It's going to be played over at Richardson Stadium, Sam Royce Field. And it's Barron County with a 1 seed against Allen County. And we're going to carry that game on 104.7 WCLU Burgundy as well. And then on Monday, it's Glasgow and Warren East at 5:30. And the way this worked out, so at the back end of next week, Glasgow's graduation is on the Friday and Barron's is on the Saturday at the back end of next week. And so I think part of what has happened here is they're trying to just make sure, whether or anything, they have a good enough window, enough days so that they can make sure they get these games in before the graduations. Because, of course, the region will begin the following Monday, and the draw for the regional tournament needs to be that Saturday morning, a week at the end of that week. So I think that's kind of what they're doing here, is trying to make sure they can get all the games in, even if weather is an issue. They got plenty of days to work with. And the way that it ended up getting set up is Barron County swept Glasgow in baseball last week, and that locked up an undefeated regular season for them in the district and gave them the number 1 seed. The two games were actually pretty interesting. I wasn't sure how it was going to go after the way that, I didn't think Glasgow played very well against East, especially in one of the games. They played better in the other game. And Barron played, they beat East soundly in one game and 2-0 in the other one, I think was the score. So
6-1.
6-1. And so, I thought Barron was clearly the best team in the district. But, it's a rivalry game, and sometimes that mix causes the games to be more competitive than it looks like they should be just on paper. And I'm guessing that was the case in those two games. Barron won 4-1 and 3-2.
6-1.
They beat Glasgow 6-1. Yeah, that's right. 6-1 and 3-2. So
yeah, Barron finished undefeated 6-0. It's a little. Listen, I think Barron's one of the top 3 teams in the region. They're 20-8 now, but the baseball's so different. You can't compare baseball to softball in the sense that baseball, the pitchers change. You can't throw the same pitcher. So whoever's on the mound is really the equalizer or whatever. So Barron is 6-0 in the district, but they've been close games. Remember Allen, who they'll have to play in the district. Barron had to score 6 in the bottom of the 7th to come back and beat them 10-9.
Right.
Glasgow, who's 7-19, 3-2, and Barron's all 3 runs were unearned. I think Barron got maybe 2 hits.
Yeah, right.
No runs, and so all the games have been close. So Barron could, they'll go in as a favorite against Allen. Their record's better and so forth, but the games have been close and so forth. So you can't really take anything for granted in these district games. But on the Barron win against Glasgow last Tuesday at Glasgow 6-1. Skylar Potter continued his good pitching. He went the distance, 7 innings, 3 hits. J.P. Hyde homered, had 2 RBIs, and Barron. The game was relatively close early, and then Barron pulled away. Then on Wednesday, Barron won 3-2, and really it was. I think it was more Glasgow errors.
Right.
They made, I don't know how many errors they made, probably 4, I'm guessing. Anytime you score 3 runs like Barron did on 2 hits, and that's you're kind of fortunate, to be honest with you. In that case, Sutton Hyde and Jacob Spence came in relief and shut Glasgow down. I'll just say Sutton Hyde, he's now thrown over. He's over 12, 13 innings is not allowed to run all year. That's
Right.
pretty good to bring somebody in relief like that. But
Yeah, not a bad closer.
That was a game that Glasgow probably almost a giveaway game in a lot of sense.
Yeah, because they were up 2-0. I think Barron scored all 3 runs in the bottom of the 4th, I think it was. And in that inning, Carter Hodges had gone. He had pitched up to that point, and basically Barron had not really been able to get the ball in play against him. And they had done a good job. Glasgow had done a good job on defense, and in that inning, I think there were 2 walks and then an error, and then maybe another missed play that I don't know if it was registered as an error or not, but basically allowed the go-ahead run to score. And it was just like one of those moments where, just everything just went wrong for Glasgow, and Barron was able to take advantage, but that was it in the game, basically.
Yeah, Glasgow's issues have been scoring. And against East, the 2 games against East and 2 games against Barron, I think the most they've put up are 2 runs.
Yeah.
So, that's something they're going to have to do. But their pitching has been good. Barron the rest of the week, they got games in. We talked about last week that Barron needed games. Well, they got 5 in.
Yeah.
They lost to Logan 2-0, and that snapped like a 7 or 8 game winning streak for Barron.
Right.
And Logan's probably one of the dark horses in the region. And then Saturday they swept Davis County out of Owensboro 11-0 and 6-5. The 11-0 was a 1-hitter by Colton Wilson. So, Barron's at 20-8, and they've got 3 really good games this week to get them ready for Sunday. They got Bowling Green, Taylor County, South Warren.
Yeah,
that's a loaded schedule if they can get those games in.
Yeah. So, and I'm curious to see what the week looks like, because you're right. I think Taylor County's ranked number 5 in the state, somewhere up in there. South Warren's ranked. Bowling Green's not ranked anymore. Greenwood is, but they're obviously pretty good. So
right.
It's a game that Barron won. I think the first week of the season beat Bowling Green, I think 9-7 or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
So it is a good test to get to the end of the season here.
Glasgow on the thing, they've lost 8 straight.
Yeah.
They've
lost 8 straight. There's probably about 5 of them they could circle and say we could have won that game.
Probably more than that.
Yeah.
This past week they lost to Barron 6-1 and 3-2. We've already talked about that. In the 3-2 loss, it was their best 2 pitchers, Carter Hodges and Evan Templin, both pitched, and they only allowed 3 hits. And like I said, it was the fresh gift. I want to shout out to the freshman Houston Haynes. He had a good game. He had 3 hits.
Yeah.
But there's loss. Then they lost to Logan 10-9, so they scored. And that was one of those times where their pitching's been great all year. They had trouble scoring when they put up 9 and still lose. That's just you can be a little bit snake bit sometimes that way.
Well, and I think there was an ulterior situation in that game, because I think they were up like 9-6 or 9-5, something like that, and gave up runs at the end. But Evan Templin got knocked out and probably is out for the rest of the season. He got hit by a pitch.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so that was kind of maybe an emotional situation for them. That thing, who knows what happened after that.
And then they lost to Campbellsville 7-5.
Yeah,
Campbellsville's good.
Yeah. So, they played a pretty good schedule during the week if you get right down to the brass tacks of it.
Well, Glasgow always plays a good schedule.
Yeah.
And they this year, they just had trouble scoring, and when they have scored, they lost a lot of tough ones, close games and so forth. But they're good enough to win in the district, and it's unusual to play the district on a Sunday, but we talked about that. That's the first time I could remember that, to be honest with you. But Barron and Allen, and Allen's got a really good number 1 pitcher.
Yeah, Eli Stamper,
good enough. I don't think nerves are bothering me because he's a golfer. He's been very successful in golf.
Son of the former baseball coach at Allen.
Normally successful high school golfers turn out to be, pretty good shooters in basketball or in baseball. They've dealt with the pressure, so I don't think the pressure will bother them.
Right.
And Barron will have to play well. Barron, their 2 top pitchers. I don't know. It's Skylar Potter and Cameron Crawford. Both have had great years. Potter's ERA is like 1.45, and Crawford's 2.08. I expect one of those 2 to get the ball.
Right.
And I expect Stamper to get it. So it could be very, very low scoring and so forth. And Glasgow and Warren East. Glasgow's got to play better against Warren East.
Right.
Warren East has got a losing record, but they're much better than that.
Right.
And East has played a ton better late in the year, and they've got an ace in Bratcher, the basketball player. And Glasgow will they'll have to you're going to put up a couple runs because Bratcher's not going to give up many at all. And,
No.
In a weird sense, the matchup, Allen almost with Stamper going may even match up better against Barron than Glasgow has against Warren East.
Yeah. And, you were mentioning Warren East. I mean, yeah, they have a losing record. They've played a tough schedule. And I thought they really hit the ball well here at the end of the season.
They have the ingredients who can win a region.
Yes.
And what I mean by that, you can't win a region if you got one pitcher.
Right.
You just can't. You got to win 3 games. You got to have at least 2 really good ones, and then maybe a combination of others. But really, the teams that are the most successful, they have 3 pitchers, and East has 3.
Yeah.
Barron has 3.
Yep.
So you got to have enough pitching depth. Now that doesn't necessarily mean you can win a region, but you may not get out of the district.
Right.
Because you can only pitch one.
Right.
And it depends on who you run up against. So that's where, baseball is so much more. It's much easier to handicap, to forecast softball.
Yeah.
Because the same pitcher is going to pitch.
Yeah.
It's just this time of year, they're going to pitch. And in baseball, it doesn't work that way.
I think things have changed a little bit, too, when you talk about the region in baseball, because you've always needed 3 pitchers really to win the region. But historically, as I recall, a lot of teams would have 2 that had a chance to win the region. You might get to that region championship game, depending on what the first-round matchup was, and it may be a slugfest because you may have had to use your pitchers to get there. These days, people seem to have a little bit deeper, at least in the 4th region, a little bit deeper pitching depths than they used to have. And I don't know if that's necessarily true. I just remember a few times where there were some close games in terms of low scoring in the first couple of rounds, and you get to that regional final, and it'd be like 10-8 and stuff like that. And
there should be no excuse in the district.
No,
because you should play. You got to win that first game, so you better be throwing your number 1 or at minimum your 2. But it'd be me, it'd be an easy call.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be it could be an interesting district first round, because I think, as you mentioned, Eli Stamper for Allen County, whether it's Cameron Crawford or Skylar Potter for Barron in that first round game, East with Bratcher, and really Glasgow with Carter Hodges, who hasn't really pitched deep. He'll pitch 5 maybe.
His ERA is like 2.73.
Yeah.
Garrett Shields perhaps.
Yeah. So I mean, Glasgow doesn't really have a guy who's pitches all the way through a game. Hodges would get about 5, maybe even into the 6th inning, and then they have to rely on somebody to come in there and try to close the door. But they do have guys who can get them down into the game, and so you could have a couple of pretty interesting first round games, and then you just see what happens in the district final, because what you're trying to accomplish has been accomplished, at least in terms of getting to the region. I know everybody wants to win a district title, but that first one that is really tough and I guess emotional and stressful is out of the way if you can get through it.
Right.
And then you worry about that championship game when you get there.
Is the region all at WKU, or are they still doing that crazy play the first round somewhere else?
I believe it is all at WKU
Good.
this year, because I think that was part of the discussion last year when they had the regional meeting and they decided they wanted to have everything
They should
back at
never
WKU.
do that again. That'll be I was going to say put that in some type of law. That may not work anymore.
Yeah. Laws are optional, John.
It's just they don't. I just think the tournament is better.
Yeah.
When it's all played in the same place, where you can watch the games, scout the games.
Right.
It just doesn't have that same feel when it's played at the host school for one game. I'm not a big fan of that.
Well, and if I'm not mistaken, last year all of them were played at WKU, all the baseball
Good.
games.
Okay, I get it.
Because Barron played Greenwood that first round game.
All right, that's where it should be then.
Yeah, and they had done it, just because of the restrictions on the COVID, and then I think they had a conflict the next year with WKU's baseball schedule, which is why they ended up playing those first round games at other people's places. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was all back at WKU last year. Because when they had the meeting, there was a big discussion about it. It was like everybody was like, "Look, we don't really like doing this."
Well, there's more than one field in Bowling Green too.
Yeah, there is.
You could play 4 games at one spot.
Yeah. And
Greenwood, Bowling Green, they have nice fields.
Yeah. If you remember last year, they ended up playing the 15th district final at Bowling Green High School because of the weather. It got moved, and that's where they ended up. Barron and Warren East played at Bowling Green. So because they had the turf field.
You're talking about the district final.
Yeah, the district final. That's
Yeah.
right. So I mean, we've had some pretty interesting arrangements in the last few years.
Well, you have to be flexible in
Yeah.
spring sports, just because they're outdoor sports. You have to deal with the weather.
Right.
That's just part of the flexibility and things like that. And so things can be moved around and so forth. I just want the tournament and try to be played in one spot.
Yeah, it does have a sense because it's everything's on that Memorial Day and everybody's over at the softball field. They're at the baseball field. There's just a real feeling of just a big fun time.
Right.
So you've 4 games at the baseball field, 4 at the softball field. It's all day, pretty much every year. It works out to be beautiful on that day as well. I don't know how that's possible, but I don't remember. There's probably been one year where that first Monday was weather wasn't great.
Memorial Day tends to have good weather.
Yeah,
It really does.
so it's
Knock on wood, but it's very rarely. I mean, it may have a pop-up storm briefly, but it's rarely just rains all day.
yeah. Now I've been cooked like a lobster
It can
several
be
times
hot.
out there.
You're right. It can be very, very hot, toasty.
Okay. Anything else on the high school baseball? I was going to say something that I just thought of. Greenwood, South Warren, and Bowling Green all split with each other, so I don't even know what the 14th district bracket looks like. I don't know how they've.
Whoever gets the number 1 seed is a walk into the region.
Yes, they'll be playing Warren Central if they even bother to show up.
That's correct.
So there's going to be one of the top 5 teams
Out.
right out of the bat, kind of like in the softball.
That's right.
All right, this is Brown Sports Bag presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
We here at the Brown Sports Bag, presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, don't only get you ready for the Diamond Sports postseason and the end of the season here. We'll talk a little bit about some track and tennis, which we're going to mention that as well here in this segment. But let's start with the track because the Glasgow's regional is Saturday at McLean County. I've been to McLean County once for a football game. I really didn't know they had track there. I mean, I'm sure they have track, but I don't remember what their facility looks like. And they could have had it upgraded. That was a few years ago when I went. And then Barron's Regional is next Monday at Bowling Green High School. So they do have a good facility after they got it all redone. Excuse me. Jarek Martin, the guy who plays football and basketball, is running track this year for Glasgow. And he would be a contender to win the long jump for Glasgow at that region. I believe he broke the school record at the Terry Reid Track Classic on Saturday. I think he jumped 21 feet, 10 inches, I think is what it was. So just walked out there, and that's how good of an athlete he is. And, he's as the season has gone along, he's learned how to do the jump.
Yeah, there's some technique to it.
Yeah, and he also does a high jump. He's got some ways to go there, get that form down. That one's trickier, I do believe. And I think he ran the 200 as well on Saturday, did pretty well in that. Kellen Stone might be number 2 in the region in the long jump, also former football player. He's a senior. So they're like 2 of the top long jumpers in that region. And that region also includes Owensboro Catholic, I believe. So they've got some pretty good athletes coming in now. Cynthia Austin, she has a chance to win the triple jump for the Glasgow girls. And I think the Lady Scotties have like 3 relay teams that are 1 or 2, maybe even 3 in the region. Those relays, what's great about them is you get in a good relay race and people elevate their games if they've got their handoff and their forms down. Those can be some outstanding races. So I think they're pretty good in the 4x1, 4x2, and the 4x4. And then Barron County, they have Grayson Billingsley. I'd say he's a favorite to win the boys discus in the 3A region they're in.
Yeah, he's come out of he threw last year, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure. But,
Yeah, he's like 25 feet further than he was last year, I think.
Just tremendous improvements.
Yeah. And then, of course, we have Riley Wilson. I'd say she's a favorite to win the discus and shot.
She's defending champion, right? In
Yeah.
shot for sure.
Yeah. And I think she went to state in both of them last
She did go
year.
to state in both, that's correct.
And I don't remember exactly what her position was last year, but, yeah, she's a favorite.
Came out of nowhere, too, last year.
Yeah, she did. And then she's a junior, so as her sophomore year, she made it to state. Gracie Reed, I mean, we know about her. She's a junior. She's one of the top 800 and 1600 runners.
Coming off an injury
Yep.
and gradually getting back to that old form.
Yep. She's ran some good times this past weekend at the Terry Reed Track Classic on her home track. And then Brody Miller will be one of the top 1,600 runners. Their region has, on the girls' side and the boys' side, have some of the better. Yeah, it has some of the better distance runners in the state in that region. So it is a loaded region. So they could qualify for state, finish third in their region, 2 or 3 in their region, go to state, and finish 2 or 3 in the state too, because of there's not a whole bunch more better than that region. So that's going to be pretty good. The Terry Reed Track Classic, like I said, it was Saturday. Gracie won the 800 and 1600 at it, and Jarek Martin, that was it, jumped 21:10.
And we still don't have all the results for that one.
Yeah, they didn't have the discus or shot put results for the boys and girls posted when I was looking at it. And there were a few other things. They had all of the track results done. They didn't have all the field results done. So we'll get that on the radio or on the website, the WCLUradio.com sports, whenever we have all of that. Hopefully, I was hoping to have it today, but it probably won't be now until tomorrow. But yeah, that's a great event. It's been going on, I think, 22 years now in honor of Coach Reed, who still goes out there and works it.
Still goes out there. That's exactly right. He not only works that, but he also is I think a volunteer assistant coach too for the Trojans.
Yeah, he can't give
Among
it up.
his many duties.
Yeah, right. He does everything. But yeah, so that was good, and like I said, we'll be looking forward to some of the results. We've had some outstanding track athletes here in the last few years. Some of the tops in the state. We've had a couple of state champions come through. We've had a couple of people who have been real close to winning state titles.
Really have.
So we've kind of had a golden age, and it continues with some of the people who are going to be going this year, I'd say. The regional tennis situation has gotten kind of strange. Last year,
Surely not.
Yes, it has. Last year they introduced a team tennis title. Now, so you could play a team regional, and then you can go play in a team state tournament if your team qualifies. Then they'll have an individual, what they refer to as an individual.
And you can play them both.
Yes, you can play them both. So the team tournament started on Friday. Glasgow's boys, I think, beat Logan County 3-2, and the girls lost to Metcalf 3-0. Barron played Saturday.
You get one team or two teams?
You get one team.
One team.
It's a team of 5.
Okay.
But
singles and doubles.
Yep. So you'll have 3 singles and 2 doubles, I think is the way it works out. And so, if you win, then that your team goes on to the team regional and the team state. And so Barron County girls team played Saturday. They won against Allen County. And the boys lost, but I don't remember who they played off the top of my head. And so today we have the next round. I don't know if this is like the quarterfinals or what. I don't know. So
I'm guessing Greenwood's going to be a heavy favorite.
Yes, I'm sure they will be.
Or Bowling Green, right?
Yeah, it's kind of shifted. The Trues have all moved to Greenwood, I think. So, the Trues were at Bowling Green. Bowling Green was a heavy favorite. Now it's Greenwood.
Okay.
I don't know if there are any Trues left, but, that's the former men's tennis coach at WKU. His children came through many years ago at Bowling Green, and they were, winning state titles.
Greenwood's been a powerhouse in the last so many years.
They have been, and I believe they would still be the favorites now. And as a matter of fact, I think Barron County has to play Greenwood, and their girls, I think, play Greenwood. And Glasgow's boys, I don't remember who they play. But anyway, one of them plays maybe South Warren. So that team tennis tournament continues on today and tomorrow. At the end of the week is the individual regional tennis tournament. And so basically, now I would say on the individual front, you have, I think, Madison McFall at Barron. I think she could make a good run on the girls' side. She's been building up. She's a junior. She's been a pretty good tennis player for the last few years. And I don't know if we really have anybody else who really has a shot to make a run at the individual tournament. We have some people who will win some matches, I do believe, but I don't know if anybody has a real chance to make a deep run in it.
We'll see.
Yeah. And so that's coming up at the end of the week. So if you see some tennis results, you're like, I thought they'd already played the regional tennis tournament. There's your explanation for why there are two of them. So it got a little bit confusing last year when I went out there and I was told they had two tournaments. I was like, when did they start doing that? Well, they decided to start doing it this year. I was like, why? But I don't know if you saw this. The KHSA had a board meeting last week, and part of the discussion was the tennis state tournament and the regional tournaments because of court capacity in Lexington where the tournaments are played. So now they're discussing restructuring the tennis again. It's kind of like golf. It seems like every couple of years they have a new idea of how to qualify to get to state, and they come up with some new plans. And it's just, I'm like, why can't you just find something and stick with it?
Yeah, they're. I think sometimes in the they're trying to be fair and equitable at times. Let as many people participate as possible, but that sometimes when you do that, it kind of, I don't know, oversaturates it as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're getting.
I'm all for improved participation in sports.
Right.
I think that's great, but that does not mean everybody has to go play at the state tournament.
I agree with that.
All right, this is Brown Sports Bag presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, John, this last segment here, presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. We're watching the weather to see if any of the games that we have left to be played today are going to be rained out before we get off the air. So I don't know yet. If so, we'll let you know. The WKU softball team hosted the Conference USA tournament last week. Didn't go so well for the Lady Toppers. They lost their first game 2-1. Katie Murphy of Barron County scored the only run in the game, scored on a pass ball. Then they won the second game and then lost Louisiana Tech. I don't know if it was 6-4.
It was close.
Yeah, it was a pretty close game.
Right.
I think Katie Murphy had a double in that game.
She had 2 hits in the 3 games.
Yeah. So she had a decent week, but they just couldn't pull off the wins. Did Liberty end up winning the thing?
Liberty ended up winning.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
They were the favorites anyway.
Oh, they were the prohibitive favorite.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, we're deep into one of our favorite seasons. That's the college softball postseason.
The starts Friday. I think the SEC got. I know they got
everyone.
They got 14 teams in it. I think the only team that didn't get in was Missouri. Even Kentucky got in, and Kentucky was 29-25. Lost, I think, their last 5 or 6. They were 7-16 in the SEC.
Yeah.
So, but their strength of schedule and things like that got them in. I don't think they're going to go very far. To be honest with you, they go to the Clemson region. But the number 1 seed is Texas A&M, SEC. The number 2 seed is Oklahoma.
Now SEC.
Third seed is Florida. So that's 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
And South Carolina is like the 8th seed. You got LSU's top 10 seed.
So is Texas on a down year this year?
No, Texas is 4th seed. They go 1, 2, 3, 4, something
gotcha.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's incredible amount of teams they put in there.
Yeah.
They got half of the top 16 hosting 8 of them, I think, are SEC. So it's incredible.
One of the fascinating things, we did talk about this last year about the softball. We talk about all the teams being added to the SEC, but I remember you and I talked last year about how this was going to make the SEC softball like just no league even close to it. I mean, because all of the best programs in the nation, with the exception of maybe UCLA,
are in the Big Ten now.
Yeah. They're all in the SEC.
Well, ACC's still good. Florida State's good.
Yeah.
Florida State, Clemson's good. ACC's, got the warm weather teams. Yeah, they got a few, but no, it's not even close. SEC is by far the best conference.
Yeah, and it looks like that's going to play out in baseball as well, the way it's kind of shaping up.
ACC's good. People forget last year they had 4 teams. ACC had 4 teams in the College World Series.
Yeah.
So ACC is good. Tennessee won it last year, SEC. But, the SEC is – what's the slogan? They just want it more. What is it?
They just want more of them.
It just means more, right? That's a slogan.
It should be. They just want more of them. That's what that should be.
But yeah, I mean the SEC is the best conference. It is what it is.
Yeah. Okay. Little offbeat going back to the baseball because I was asked in an email to explain rankings, high school baseball rankings.
Okay. All right.
All right. So in Max Prep's rankings, they have Barron County at number 13 in the state of Kentucky. They also have Barron County's record at 22-7, which is not correct.
Nope.
Because there were 2 games on there that they're listed as wins that were not complete games. One being the game against Russell County last week, which was called in the third inning by rain.
Yeah.
So it's not an official game.
Right.
Even though they were ahead 6-5. And there was another one earlier in the season. So first of all, they don't have their record right. They use a ratings system that's basically just a mathematics formula to come up with their ratings. There's no voting or anything like that. And I don't know exactly how it works, but I've studied other states that don't have RPIs like Kentucky. Usually there are teams that are going to be in your ratings who if you watch them play, you know they are not one of the 10 best teams in the state. I'm not saying Barron's not good. I'm just saying.
No, I think Barron's top 25.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying you can't rely on Max Preps.
No.
You also can't rely on the RPI
No,
system that the KHSAA uses. So if you're going to look at that and say, well, why isn't Barron this or that? They're like down in the 26 or 27 in that. I think they're better than 26 or 27.
RPI is supposed to be based on strength of schedule, and Barron's played a great schedule.
Yeah.
So that's confusing in itself.
Well, part of the RPI's problem is they don't have the out-of-state mathematics factored in.
Yeah.
So you don't know how that works out.
I go by what I see.
Right.
And Barron's a top 25 team.
Yeah, and they are in the top 25 in that prep baseball rankings, which is a system that's voted on by people around high school baseball. And from what I understand, it's usually pretty good and has a decent participation number, unlike the softball poll, which has not nearly enough people participating in it.
Yeah, it takes such effort from a softball coach to vote.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. I mean, I don't. It actually it's disappointing because you should be supporting your sport.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've talked to people about the softball rankings who don't vote in it, who said, well, my team's not good enough to vote in it. I tell them, but we need you to vote in it because you have no dog in the fight. You're going to be the most neutral voter out there.
Vote. Yeah, I know. It's a little disappointing.
Yeah. And so I think the baseball gets a little better participation.
They do.
So Barron was number 25 last week. I have not seen the rankings for this week.
So they shouldn't go down.
No, they shouldn't. So, I'm curious to see I think they'll still be in the top 25.
Right.
So if you want to look at rankings, look at that one. Don't worry about Max Preps or RPI or any of that kind of stuff. Those mathematic systems are fine, but they have pretty bad flaws.
Starting Sunday doesn't matter anyway, does it?
That's right. Playoffs are here.
That's right.
Where they're ranked will be determined by how they play from here on out. All right, this is Brown Sports Bag presented by McDonald's Glasgow. We'll be back next week.
You've been listening to the Brown Sports Bag on WCLU. Be sure to join James and John again next Monday at 4 for another edition of the Brown Sports Bag.